In Yaakov, we're coming to the end of Brachot, actually. And 63b, I think this is actually the last daf, if I'm correct. 63a5, I'm sorry. 63a5, and yeah, no, it's one more page after that, okay. So here we go. So Amar Rav Huna Berei, I'm sorry, Ba Berchia, Mishum Rabbi Elazar Kafar. So Rav Huna, the son of Berechia, then said the name of Rabbi Elazar Kafar, Kol HaMishatev Shem Shemaim, B'tzaro, Koflin Lo Parnasato. Anyone who makes the name of heaven a partner in his distress, they double his livelihood for him. Very nice. How do we know? Shnei says, V'haya shakai v'tzarecha v'kesef to'afot lach. If the Lord will be included in your distress, then double to'afot money to you. Who's they?
They double his livelihood for him. Who's they? He's adding the name of heaven to his distress, and they double his livelihood for him. Who does?
Heaven, Shem Shemayim.
Okay, that's Paul.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he says in 44, one makes Hashem a partner in his distress through prayer, either by willingly accepting his decree with the blessing Baruch Dayan Hamet, blessed is the true judge, or by asking him for mercy. The Gra states that this partnership is accomplished by one's recognition that his trouble did not come upon him by happenstance, but was brought about him by the Almighty's direct decree. That's what we always have to remember, right? Maharsha, however, interprets Rabbi Elazar Kafar's statement in a more literal sense. For it is a fact that when a Jew undergoes suffering, Hashem himself suffers along with him, as God states regarding one who seeks his refuge in Psalms, Imo Anochi Tzara, I am with him in his distress. One who recognizes this, even if he possesses no merit on his own, can request salvation for Hashem's own sake. That's why we say the man shmo v'yahava, right? In order for his name with love. We're always asking God to do it for his sake of his name. What are you talking about? The other one is distress, not God. God doesn't need us, let's face it. Okay? God doesn't need. God's not a human. So what we're saying is Hashem, since it says I am with him in his distress, that means anthropomorphically that God is with us in other things. So we say, since you're with us anyway, so do it for your sake. Why should you be in distress? Right? We're playing on that. That's what's happening there. So, and then it says, he quotes a verse in Job to make his point, and it says, Toafot, it connotes a doubling. This, of course, with the Targum uncle is fine. So then, now the Gemara discusses another safeguard for a time of distress. Ama Rabbi Tabi, Ama Rav Yoshia. So Rav Tabi said the name of Rav Yoshia. You have it, right? You're still looking for it?
I think I know where you're at, but I'm not sure. I'm seeing everything you've got in this one.
Okay. Kol marape atzmo medivrei Torah. Ein bo koach lamo biyom sarah. So it says, anyone who weakens himself with the words of Torah, he will have no strength to stand in the day of distress, which means for the angels that normally give a person the strength to withstand his tribulations will not aid this individual. The Maharsha states that this teaching refers not to one who neglects Torah study entirely, but to one who studies without diligence or enthusiasm. Okay? So you want to really put your effort into learning Torah. And how does he prove this? Shneimar is stated in Proverbs, Hitra pita b'yom sarah sar kochecha. If you have weakened yourself by not learning, or learning without any exuberance, then on the day of distress, your strength will be constricted. So again, the rabbis are trying to tell us that the source of our power, the source of everything we do, is through Hashem, and the way we channel that is by learning Torah. And by doing it doesn't mean I have to learn Torah 24/7. No, although it doesn't exempt you either. As it says, we say every day, Nega Yom V'Layla, that we have to do it day and night. There's really no time off. But we have to go to work. So Hashem says, okay, go to work, but while you're going to work, you have in mind that you're working so that you can study Torah. By the way, this gets into a whole hashkafa, a whole worldly outlook, if you will. That when we have, in other words, what is the ikar, what is the tafel, what is the main, what is the minor? We had the share and beer, or beer and share. There's a whole argument. In other words, they were advertising it, share and beer, and then somebody said, what are you talking about, share and beer? It used to be beer and share. What's the main, what's the minor? Okay, the main is the beer, not the share. Or is it the share, not the beer? Okay, that was the whole joke of that going back and forth. But really, that's what you're looking at here too. So now this goes into, like I said, Haredi Judaism, if you will, versus modern Orthodoxy, if you will. Okay, I don't really like to go with those sort of labels, but we will use those labels for the second. Haredi Judaism will see college as a b'diavad, as the tafel, the minor. I need that so I can get a good job, so that I can earn money to support my family, so that I can bring them up as Bnei Yisrael, pay for yeshiva, do what I have to do. But main thing is to learn Torah. That's it. Okay, my main thing. So if I have to work, I have to work. I'm also get paid for work. So I'll go to school. I'll do what I have to do. Become the accountant, the lawyer, whatever I'm going to do. But it's only b'diavad. Really, I realize I should be learning Torah all day long, but I'm not. Hashem didn't give me the wherewithal. Maybe I don't have enough emunah in the system. You could argue that all these things back and forth. For the modern Orthodox, he says, no, it's not. They're both. Yes, it's true that Torah is the ikar and the work or the profession is the tafel, but they work together. They work in consonance. So it's really not one that is. It's not a b'diavad to go to work. It's l'chadchila. It's the first instance to go to work, to get an education, to be living in this world. Whether or not it's to know about all the shootings and everything else, all the other mishigas we have to know about. I'm not sure that we would argue that, but who knows? You could argue that too. You have to know what's going on in the world. Okay, fine. But that would be why people will really go for a strong... a major education and say that we have to have both secular and religious studies as a real push, and others will say no, and that's why in some schools, Hasidic schools mainly, after I think 8th grade or whatever English is done with, they no longer will learn English or the English subjects. They will just go right into all Gemara in their high school career.
How do they pass the state requirements for high school education?
Because they do exactly what's necessary. In order to get a GED, you don't have to be you have to have like an 8th grade education, tops. Maybe a 6th grade. I'm not sure what it even is anymore. But they do the bare minimum of what they have to do. And that's it. That's what I've been told. Again, I'm not part of the system, but I know people who said after 8th grade. I remember when I was at Torah Masorah conventions, they were arguing, why should I have to go for 9th grade? Why should I be learning English or math or anything else? It's unnecessary. And it's Torah, fine. There were major arguments against that, by the way. There was both sides were being argued, and while an interesting argument, as a person was listening to it, I also felt that we're getting nowhere with this argument. So what's the use of it? You're living in America, figure out what you're doing, figure out what you need. But of course they would say that, no, you have Emunah, you have B'tachon, Hashem will take care of us. And of course, and by Hashem taking care of us means getting some gevir, some rich person, or a companion of rich people to support them.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you say living in America, because in the old days, in the old country, we didn't have a chance for equal opportunity to get the education, and you did whatever you needed. Now here, and of course even in Europe, the opportunity is there to get the education. So
in Europe, you have, by the way, just historically, you had an opportunity for education if you're willing to assimilate and renounce. So you certainly had that.
Keep your Yiddish card.
Right.
Yeah,
so the problem was you had people who renounced What's his name?
Karl Marx.
No. Before him, or long before him.
Oh.
The Jew who converted, and he Spinoza. Spinoza.
Oh, yeah.
Spinoza, who did everything, and then
right.
he was rejected by the right. He was rejected.
Haskalah, yeah.
Okay, Haskalah.
Yeah.
He was rejected by the Jewish world. He was rejected by the non-Jewish world.
Yeah.
So it really didn't help him to become the island. He regretted it because he said, "I lost both sides." You had also Mendelssohn. You had a lot of people. You had Hirsch, who Torem Derech Eretz. You had all those different movements that would go on. So Europe. Yeah, there was a time that we couldn't be educated secularly, but it wasn't as important as it is, or it wasn't seen as important as it is today. In America, it's a very important thing. So whether or not it's a reality or not, I'm not going to argue, but it's seen as, if you don't go to college, then you're doomed to work a 9 to 5 for $8 an hour and have a good day. You're not going to get anywhere in life, which, by the way, is a lie. It's the ultimate lie, but but we sell it nicely. And
Steve Jobs.
a lot of people didn't go to college and are quite rich today. So because what they do is I had the people who went to college and they have them working for them. So it's the old joke of the C student gets the A student to work for them, and they make it rich. Fine. What I'm saying is that is philosophically that you could see this coming down too. That if I kill myself over Torah and I have that emunah and the bitachon and I make that my ikar, my main thing, even though I'm going to go to work, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to get paid from the employer and whatever. So what happens is I see that money not as coming from, I'll use me. Not as coming from Midwest Torah Center. So where my money coming? My money comes from God. He's laundering the money through the Midwest Torah Center. It's fine. He makes it legal. But the money can come from all different sources. He just decided, because the world works that way, that you think you need to go through getting a job. He talked to me. He says, "Fred, you think you need a job?" Feibel, he wouldn't call me Fred. Feibel, you think you need a job? So good, I'm going to give you a job. And you're going to work for this place called Midwest Torah Center. You're going to get a paycheck. And that's it. And this is what I'm going to give you. We negotiate it out, obviously. Negotiate with God. So you get this, you get that, fine. And I'm going to give you that. And you're going to think because of your work and what you did, you're going to get paid. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Fine. But, that's what's going to be. And when I don't like you to work there because I think it's done already. Well, I know it's done already. So I'm going to say, this job ends, we go to another job. Because that's what your job is. Your job is to go where I tell you. You're working for me. You're not working for the organization. You understand? So if I understand that, and by the way, it's a lot of people, we read stories like this all the time, where the guy puts years into the job, and suddenly the job cuts him out. And I put my whole life and soul into it. And Hashem was looking and saying, "You're an idiot then. I'm sorry. Again, I'm using them as a conduit to give you money, that's all. It could come through anywhere. And if you would have had bitachon and real bitachon, again, it's like I said last week, we have really emunah bitachon, and we're going to sit, and again, most people don't have this. Let's be honest. Most people don't. Certainly I don't. But it's, if you're going to just sit and learn and really steig away, then you're going to get what you need. Whatever that is, it's going to come to you. Yeah.
So for the analogy of, not analogy.
And by the way, that's the Haredi view, point of view.
So for the example of the,
B'diavad, the after the fact.
You have to get the job and money, but it's because it's for the sake of Torah ultimately. So like that, so it works into that. That's also like the food, right?
The food?
People can get their jobs and just have the job, not anything else. And people can have a lunch and just to eat.
Yes. Everything right. Everything that we do, whether eat, sleep, exercise, has to be l'shem shamayim. If we make it l'shem shamayim, then we've turned to that very secular act, mundane. I should say mundane. The very mundane act into a holy act, 100%. So when I'm working out and again, you don't have to work out and watch Torah anytime. But if I'm working out and I'm doing those things, and I'm even posing in front of the mirror, if anybody, again, I was like picking on Charles Atlas for this. Any one of these bodybuilding exercises, okay, they'll always tell you, make sure you look in the mirror and see the change. That's what's supposed to be the self-motivating factor. So you make muscles and pose in front of the mirror. Okay, by the way, when you pose in front of the mirror, two things happen. One, you see how fat you really are, or how good looking you really are. But the other thing is you're putting your muscles on, which is isometrics. So that's also part of the exercise program. So really, that's why they're saying pose. They want you to see because you want to be Mr. Muscle, but you're also seeing you're also forcing your muscles to work. So that becomes part of the workout, which is an amazing thing. They're using your ego to push it more. I think it's fascinating how these people figure that out. Maybe they didn't figure it out and they're just doing it. I don't know, but that's really what you're doing. You're doing isometrics. So, which of course builds your muscles up. Now what happens is if I'm doing that, it's to say I'm building my muscles up so that I can do Hagbah on the Torah. Okay, I've turned that very mundane experience into a religious experience. Okay, so again, if I'm eating all those things. By the way, when you're eating, again, I'm not saying that people should have Drakes, since everybody knows who Drakes is in this part of the country already. It's little cupcakes. It's junk food, but they're selling it in this part of the country already. So
Myers,
it's in Myers. Baruch Hashem. You don't eat it because you don't. Well, you have garbage food. Yeah. Okay, so you have to try Drake's. Drake's. You have to go to. You have to. Drake's is from Boston. It's a Boston thing.
At Myers,
That's right. That's right.
Myers down here when you walk in, just go to the left. It's right up by the bakery.
Oh wow! They put it right at the beginning.
So they have to look for it. It's a small city.
Also,
It's like
the lemon cookies and the sugar cookies.
it's like your mom is what's it called?
It's the kosher version of what do you call it? The cupcakes.
Hostess.
Oh yeah.
Hostess. Right? Hostess. He did a hostess here though.
No.
A hostess. Okay.
The gas station.
Right there you go. So it's the kosher brand of Hostess. Yeah. Okay, but it's the good stuff. So what happens if I'm going to eat that again? If I'm saying I'm eating this because I need the energy to do it to learn Torah, because there's a lot of sugar in there. You drink that, it's like drinking a Coke. You know, you wake up. But it's if you do that, okay, you've turned that junk food, what we call junk food, into a holy thing. Of course, making any bracha is going to do that to food too. Yeah, I have to have in mind of what I'm saying the bracha for, but that would be correct. If you would do that, so you would do it. But if you would do that, so you're increasing it. But my point is, when it comes to the Torah, like I said, you can see the philosophies breaking up from here. What is the ikar? What is the tafel? And do I need one for the other? It says in Pirkei Avot. Emein derech eretz ein Torah. Emein Torah ein derech eretz. So both ways. If I don't have a job, I can't have Torah. If I don't have Torah, I can't have a job. Okay. Why? What's the difference? Because the job weakens me down physically, and the Torah weakens me down mentally, so I can go to sleep that night. So if I only have one but not the other, first of all, if I only have Torah and not a job, then I have no income. If I have no income, so where I have to make money, I have to still live in this world. So it's true, Hashem can send me money for whatever he wants, but that's not how the world works. At least that's not how we perceive that it works. Okay, I'll say it like that. But on the other hand, if I just do work and I don't learn Torah, I've missed the main point of this world of what I'm doing down here. So then again, I'm going to be physically tired, but I won't be mentally tired. I'll be thinking about all the things and getting into all the trouble. And that's when internet becomes the biggest evil in the world instead of the biggest blessing in the world. Everything is, the internet by itself is nothing. It's all what I make out of the internet.
Yeah.
By the way, if I'd be Haredi, I wouldn't say that. I would say the internet is evil. If I'm modern Orthodox, I say it's wonderful. So again, it's either wonderful or it's not. And the point is, it's parv. It's neither one. It's what I make it.
Yeah.
Okay? It's like everything. It's just parv. So, not to pick on Haredi, but I'm just going with the labels for that second. Okay. I like Haredi. So.
Really, I do.
Say that again?
I really do. I like it.
Right. Well, I've been told that one hand I was an Orthodox, and then in the next day I was told I was Hasidic. So I'm really in between two worlds here. I don't know. I think it's funny that when people call me different names. So Amar Rav Safra said, Rabbi Abahu Hava Mishtai. Rabbi Abahu was speaking, and he related the following incident. Here we go. Kishirad Chanina ben Achi, Rav Yeshua v'Lagola. When Chanina, the son of Rav Yeshua's brother, went down to the diaspora. So what happened? Ahava ma'abir shanim v'kaveh chadashim v'chus la'artz. He was intercalating years and establishing months outside of Israel, which is prohibited. And he says, so explain, what?
Establishing
Months. Chadashim.
It's not, he said monks. So why would we establish months not allowed?
Oh, so here we go. For the law of well, why do you think he was? They didn't have a calendar.
Oh.
Before the calendar was fixed. Okay? We have to know when the holidays are. So he says, for the law that is that intercalation of the years may be performed only in the province of Judea in Eretz Yisrael. This is taught in the Bright Decided in Sanhedrin and is derived in the Gemara. You don't have that. I'm reading from the notes.
Okay.
Right. And it's derived in the Gemara from the verse of Deuteronomy, Shichno, to Teshuvat Shama. To his dwelling place you shall seek, and there you shall come. The term used for you shall seek is Tidrishu, can also mean investigate. The verse thus states, at God's dwelling place you shall investigate. It accordingly teaches that an investigation is undertaken by the rabbinical court to determine the insertion of an extra month, as well as those undertaken to establish new months. Where is it going? Must take place in God's dwelling place, namely in Judea, where the Holy Temple is located. Rabbi Chanina was therefore prohibited from performing the intercalation outside of Eretz Yisrael.
Is Judea... Okay. I'm familiar with the... I'm slightly familiar with where the tribes were. Not at all for some tribes, but anyway.
Judea is in southern Israel.
Right, it's southern because of the southern and northern kingdom split, right? So, when they say the province of Judea, because Judea was the one that was at least the more religious one out of the two, right? The northern kingdoms became completely corrupted.
Okay, right, so the southern kingdom, right?
Am I right? Right, okay. So
historically, you'd be correct. I don't know if it's really correct.
Yeah,
okay.
Right, but so when it says Judea, is it saying Judea as in that Judea, the southern kingdom? Or Judea as in, are they just referring to the Roman province?
No, Judea.
Okay.
Southern kingdom.
Because this is the second temple.
Southern kingdom, because they have to in the temple.
Right.
Has to be in the Yun chamber. Yes, it calls it. It has.
Right.
I think it's called Yun chamber.
Before the split, they could just do it in the land of Israel.
No. Always had to be done in Yerushalayim.
Just in Judea. Okay. So not more than just in Judea, they had to be in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do it anywhere.
What?
You can do it anywhere in Judea.
You could?
You could not. You
Right. You had to. Right. It was only the Sanhedrin who could do this.
Right, and they were in Judea, which was they were in Jerusalem, which was they're in
the province of Judea.
Right, within
Correct.
Right.
So insertion of an intercalary month is mandated in Deuteronomy, where the Torah demands that the festival of Pesach must always fall in the spring. And since the lunar year is some 11 days shorter than the solar year that defines the seasons, it must occasionally be extended to correspond to the solar year. The rabbis therefore add a 13th month to the lunar calendar cycle wherever their calculations show it to be necessary. In the present day, the lunar and solar cycles are matched by the automatic insertion of 7 months over every 19 years, in accordance with the calendar established by the Nasi Hillel II. Before Hillel's time, however, other factors were considered as well. The intercalation was therefore not automatic, but would be deliberated by the rabbinical court, who would set the calendar according to their decision. So now we have, that's the history. We weren't, today we want to know what a leap year is. We want to know what's your bar mitzvah. We have a I think a 200-year calendar. That's what we have at this point. We go to the year 6000. Then Mashiach is supposed to be here, so I don't think we went over that. But we don't have to worry about it. We can tell you when your bar mitzvah is going to fall at that point. Leap year with everything included. But that's only because of Hillel II. But in those days, they didn't have it. So now we have a person. He went down to diaspora, outside of Eretz Israel, outside the province of Judea, and he did that. He was intercalating. So what happened? So the rabbis, the sages of Eretz Israel, sent out 2 scholars after him, namely Rabbi Yossi ben Kefar ben Beno, Zechariah ben Kavutal. Rabbi Yossi ben Kefar, the son of the son of Zechariah ben Kavutal. Kevan Sharautam Amar Lahem. When he saw them, he said to them, Lama Batem, why did you come? Amar Leh. They said to him, L'mo Torah Banu. We came to learn Torah. Very nice, okay.
I can't see where this is going.
Say it again?
I can't see where this is going. They're going to go over the law of...
So he said, we came to learn with you, Rechanina. Thereby they hoped to disarm Rabbi Chanina and to win his trust, so that he would speak well of them to the people. Rabbi Chanina would then be unable to disparage them when he learned of the true mission. As we shall see, this is in fact what occurred. Fine. So Hichriz Aleim, Rabbi Chanina therefore announced regarding them, Anashim Halalu Gedoyle Hador Haim Baboteim Shimshu Bela Mikdash. These men are great ones of the generation, and their forefathers served in the holy temple. Ka'ot Shoshaninu, for it is as we learned in the Mishnah in Yoma, and so he says, I'll just stop there, just get the note. He said the Mishnah discusses the practice followed in the holy temple on the night of Yom Kippur. It was imperative that the Kohen Gadol remain awake all night, lest he experience a seminal emission while sleeping and become unfit for the services of the day. Therefore, the elders amongst the Kohanim would read some of the more interesting scriptural passages before the Kohen Gadol if he was unlettered and could not read on his own, which shows you that the Kohanim, everybody who was made to a Kohen Gadol was not educated. In an effort to keep him awake, Zechariah ben Kavutal testified that the book of Daniel was the one that they read to the Kohen Gadol. But it's also interesting, here's another historical part that they're throwing into the Gemara without you knowing it. But it was a matter of why would a Kohen Gadol be uneducated? Because he had just bought it, right? The Kohen Gadol used to be somebody who was either inherited from the father or would be picked by Hashem, whatever the case is going to be. So, at this point though, in this point of history, the Kohen Gadol position could be bought. And of course, you took the chance of doing this and dying, but apparently people were willing to take that chance and go in and perform the service. But what happens is, so somebody who doesn't know how to read Hebrew or understand what's going on, he's the highest bidder for the government or however they figured this out. I forget who they paid, and I think they paid the government. So and he became the Kohen Gadol. Again, whether the government didn't care if he dies, there's nothing to do with them. They got the money, so it's done. Yeah.
The government, not the Roman, right?
The Roman government.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they got the money. I'm not 100% sure about that. You'd have to Google that. Or either would actually open up a book. You can open up a nice history book. Anyway, the history books would tell you. We have a lot of history books here. But I forget if they I'm pretty sure they paid the government, not the Jewish government. So anyway, so in that mission we learn, Zechariah ben Kavutal Omer, Zechariah ben Kavutal says, Har b'pa'am karita lefanav b'sefer Daniel. Many times I read before him in the book of Daniel. We see that the forefather of one of these men served in the holy temple. And he said, although Rabbi Chanina only brought proof that the grandson of Zechariah ben Kavutal was a Kohen, it was true of Rabbi Yosef ben Kafar as well. Okay. Subsequently, they began to sow mistrust of Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina, would rule a particular thing, tameh. They would deliberately rule it tahor. Who also he would rule something forbidden, and they would rule permitted. He would then announce regarding them, Anashim halalu, shall shavim, shall tohu v'hem. These men, they are of no worth, they have desolation. They keep contradicting me, they're worthless to me. What am I doing, these guys? Okay? Amru lo, they said to him, Kavar banita v'ita yechol lestor. You have already built it, and you can no longer demolish. You already built this up. You said we were great. We're Talmidei Chachamim. You can't say we don't know anything. It doesn't work like that because we disagree with you. So, Kavar Gedarta v'yita yechol lefrotz. Again, same sort of message. You have made a fence. You can no longer breach it. Now that you have praised us before the people, you are unable to change their good opinion of us. Amar lahem, he said to them, V'bnei ma ani matame v'yatem mataran. So why is it when I rule something tameh, you rule it tahor? Ani yosef v'yatem matarim. You, when I say something's forbidden, you say it's good. Why do you deliberately thwart me in every turn? What are you doing? B'chutz la'aretz, because you are b'chutz la'aretz, because you are intercalating years and establishing months outside of Yisrael, which is prohibited. It is our duty to censor that, to ensure that none heed you. That's what we had to do.
So what is he saying? Were they intercalating only for the place outside of Israel, or were they trying to say this applies to Yerushalayim?
I'm guessing where he was.
How would they know otherwise? They would have to wait for a runner to come and tell them what it was. Instead of figuring it themselves.
Right.
So in other words, they want to get the actual rulings.
They also want to probably do one day.
Okay. Okay.
Remember, you have to remember,
No, it's only one day.
It's one day. I know the day. I know how to count. Leave me alone. It's not a big deal. I know how to count. I know the intercalation. I mean, how many times? Yeah, I'm going to get into something that I probably shouldn't. But how many times you have a Rav come in, or somebody who thinks he's a Rav, to come in and say, the halachas is what? These are the halachas. I know, I learned, I did it. Be quiet. Just sit down and be quiet. You have no right to say anything. They open up Rev Moshe and they decide, Rev Moshe said blank. Give me a break. You don't know anything. I go back to what Rabbi Herschel Shecht always says to us, to the rabbis. He said, you have no right to rule on Jewish law until you know the entire Shas. Period. You want to know what to do, you open up a Mishnah Brura, you see what it says, fine. But if it's going to be something like you're going to be allowing an aguna, a woman who does not have a divorce yet, an aguna, to marry somebody else because you found something in the Mishnah, you think nobody else found that Mishnah. You really think you're that smart. You think that Reb Moshe never knew about that. He goes crazy with this stuff. But he's right. What kind of chutzpah do we have as rabbis to go out there and saying, this is what I'm ruling? First of all, that's why I never convert anybody. I never personally convert. I teach and I bring into a Beit Din. Period. Why? Because if I would convert Chris, and I'll make him to whatever he's going to be in Yeshu. Okay. So if I'm gonna convert Chris, so then it's only in my town that he's going to be converted. He goes somewhere else, he's going to say, who's Nebel? Who is this character? I don't know who this guy. What was his standards? Especially if the guy doesn't act appropriately. The guy doesn't keep everything, he's not keeping Shabbos, whatever the case. Like you had in the old days. They would convert people, and the people would still drive on Shabbos. They wouldn't wear a kippah. They would have treif. Well, what kind of conversion was that? What are you, an idiot? The answer was that they did it usually for money, or because they were family pressure, whatever the mishagas was. But these rabbis were idiots to getting involved, and they spoiled it because there's halacha in the world. Follow the halacha. Leave me alone. Okay, and that's how it goes. But that's simple adjudicated law. Now, if I come to something that's not adjudicated, that we have to figure out, can I or can I not do blank? Well, it's not up to me. I mean, I can do and I should do my research, but after I've done my research, I should call up somebody who's one of my rebbeim or who's a recognized gadol, recognized giant in Jewish law, and say, this is what I've done, this is the question, this is what I think is proper, am I correct? Check yourself out, don't be so arrogant, check it out. Either the guy will say yes, or the guy will say no. And then, so what's the answer? Tell me the answer. Yeah, and that's how you do it. But that's so that's why they were saying, you have no right to do this. You think, and by the way, you could be a big tzaddik, you could be a big gadol, we're not going to argue that. But the halakha is quite clear, you can't do this. So since you're doing this, or who knows what else you're doing, so we had to censor you to make sure that people don't listen to you. By the way, that's also the hashgacha field. When people rely upon all these leniencies, which we don't like to rely upon today, what we basically do is nullify everything they do. Because if you're relying upon that leniency, so who knows what else you're relying upon? So why would I want to eat that? So that's why most hashgachas out there are worthless to the general public. Again, SBK is good in town, but we're not going out of town. We only do a very limited thing. And so on and so forth. So for those in town, either they rely upon SBK or they don't. Okay, when it comes to Triangle K, God bless Triangle K, but and all the other Ks out there, most people don't accept it because of the leniencies. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying, but most people don't accept it because of the leniencies that the original, and they still use the leniencies of the original Rav HaMachshir. But that's the problem. And only when they they have to prove that they're no longer using those sort of things to become accepted. I don't know if they want to, and I don't think they care. But that's what happens. Yeah, your question is?
It's kind of funny, I guess it shows how Jews...
Say it again? You have to speak up.
It's kind of funny, because I guess it shows how the Jews are like people of the book. Like, we have to get this man to desist from like this abhorrent act that he's doing. He's doing this thing that's not allowed in Torah. Send the scholars.
Right.
Not send armed men to get him to stop. Don't take him under custody.
Well, that's not going to change anything. If I was think about it. If I have a person, again, I have a Rav who's making, and I respect the Rav. The Rav makes a decision. Okay, fine. So the Rav made a decision. I'm an unschooled guy, or even if I am schooled, I'm still relying upon him. Now what happens is, he said something that's a little off, fine, but he's my Rav. So it says you have to follow the Rav. Now I have these other people come in, and he says these people are tzaddikim, they're so good, unbelievable. And so somebody comes and says, okay, now they're in town a little while, and they're learning, fine. And they come to the Rav, and they say, Rav, what do you say about this? He says, mutter, permissible. The guy says, no, asar, it's not. What are you doing? You're contradicting me here. Yeah, and so, but people say, okay, so 2 against 1, who wins? The Rav we know the Rav, we hired the Rav, he's our Rav, but these guys who he said are good, they're saying no. And every time he says yes, they say no, or no, yes. That was the opposite. So what happens is, they take away his power base. That's much more effective than arresting him.
Like the Romans, if you break the law, you do.
But you turn them into martyrs. Right. We don't want to turn them into martyrs, we want to show that he's wrong. Right. That's all we want to do. Okay. So he says, so he has a question for them. He said, wait a second, before you start condemning me, Hello, Akiva ben Yosef, but did not Akiva ben Yosef intercalate years and establish months outside of Israel? I have a precedent for this, he's saying. What are you doing to me? So and he brings down his taught in Yevamos, which says, Rabbi Akiva says, when I went out and died to intercalate years. So it shows that he did this. So Amru Lo, they said to him, Hanach Rabbi Akiva, shelo iniach kemoto be'eretz Yisrael. Leave the instance of Rabbi Akiva aside, for he is different. Since he did not leave behind anyone equal to him in Eretz Yisrael. In other words, he was the greatest rabbi of the time. He therefore was permitted to establish a calendar even outside of Eretz Yisrael. You, however, are forbidden to do so. There are people that you didn't leave everybody. You're not the last gadol left in the world. So he says, So Amar Lehem, so Rabbi Chanina said to them, Afani lo hinachti kamoti Israel. Excuse me. He says, but I too did not leave anyone equal to me in Eretz Israel. I too should be printed into such rulings. So he's saying, what are you talking about? Rabbi Kiva was an individual in his. I'm an individual in my place. Fine. Amru lo, they said to him, Gedayim shehinachta nasu tiyashim bale karnayim. The kid goats that you left behind have become rams with horns. Oh. The lesser scholars, you remember, have matured into great men, in other words. Oh. Okay? So Maharsha explains that the reference to horns was meant to intimate to Rabbi Chanina, the sage's ability to gore him, quote unquote, gore him from afar with excommunication, as we shall see. They indeed, what?
You mean intimidate, not intimate?
Yes.
Okay.
And gore means intimidate, but excommunication means cutting off.
You said intimate.
Intimate, yeah. Was meant to intimate.
Intimate or intimidate?
What? No, not intimidate. Intimate, which means to... say that again?
I think I'm really familiar with the idea.
I think intimate.
Intimate.
What's intimate mean?
To let him understand. To make him understand something.
Okay. Never heard that before.
Okay. Now you did. There you go. That's why he came. Okay. As we shall see, they indeed threatened him. Subsequently, with this very sanction, it is noteworthy that the words of the messengers imply that they agreed that Rabbi Chanina was at first permitted to act as he had, since at the beginning there were indeed none greater than he in Eretz Yisrael. It was only afterward, when he was eclipsed by the sages of Eretz Yisrael, that he was forbidden to continue. Okay. So when he left, nobody was there. Now people have grown up, as it were, they matured. And he did. So you are no longer preeminent among them. And they, these sages, have sent to you. And thus they have said, have said to us thus, go and say to him in our name that if shomea mutav, if he obeys it, it's well. In other words, if you stop doing what you're doing, everything will be fine. V'im love, and if not, yeh benidoi. If not, he will be excommunicated. V'amru la'achenu shebegola, and say thus to our brothers who are in the diaspora, im shomim mutav. If they obey us as well, in other words, they don't listen to you. V'im love, but if not, yalu lahar, let them go up to a mountain as the idolaters do. Achia yivdem v'zbeach, and let Achia build an altar. V'chanina yenagim b'chinor, let Chanina play the harp. V'yichbarbu kulam v'yomru ein lahem chele be'elokei Yisrael, and let them all deny God and say of themselves they have no portion in the God of Israel. And what she explains, disobeying us in this matter is tantamount to this. So they really ready to riot act to him. Stop. This is your first cease and desist order. Stop what you're doing, or we're going to excommunicate you. And if anybody listens to you and they want to listen to you, guess what? They're no longer part of the Jewish people. We're going to cut all of you off. You're basically you're basically serving idols. Miyad. Immediately upon hearing this, Ga'u kol ha'am b'bechiyah, the entire nation that was in diaspora moaned with weeping. Ve'amru, and they said, Chas v'shalom, God forbid, yesh lanu chelek b'elokei Israel. We have a portion in the God of Israel. Okay, so it's he says in the notes, it's clear from an incident cited in the Aruchen regarding Rabbi Chanina's uncle Rabbi Yeshua and that Rabbi Chanina was a Levite. That's why he could play the harp. The message was thus suggesting that he played the harp for the idol, as he had done in the Holy Temple. Now, if you want to be on your own, you're going to be on your own. Okay. Yerushalmi gives a somewhat different version of these events. It states that, however, the Rabbi Chanina eventually acquiesced and agreed to follow the calendar of the sages in Eretz Yisrael. For the punishment meted out to Rabbi Chanina was flouting the prohibition against intercalating years outside of Israel, and so on and so forth. Fine. And now the Gemara questions the sage's rebuke of Rabbi Chanina. Why all this? After the destruction of the Holy Temple, it should have been permissible to intercalate years even outside of Israel. Why was Rabbi Chanina not permitted to do so? And he explains that the verse from which we derive the prohibition against intercalating outside of Judea at his dwelling place, you shall investigate, discusses only the period when it is in which his dwelling place is in Judea, as long as the Holy Temple is in existence. The incident with Rabbi Chanina, however, took place after the destruction of the Temple. Why then was he censured for his actions? It's a good question. I mean, if it's not there, it's what he bothered me for. So the Gemara says, Mishum Shenemar says, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah u'devar Hashem Yerushalayim. We say it every time we take Torah. For out of Zion shall the Torah go forth, and the word of Hashem from Yerushalayim. This teaches that even after the destruction of the temple, intercalation may be performed only in Eretz Yisrael. So he said, and he explains, in Isaiah it says this is derived from the verse's use of the word, the name Zion, which applies even when the area is no longer the dwelling place of the divine presence. Our interpretation of this exchange follows the Maharsha and Shlach, who are troubled by the apparent contradiction between the Gemara's citation of "For from Zion shall the Torah go forth" as the source of the sage's objection to Chanina's action, and Rashi's statement that the prohibition against intercalation outside of Eretz Yisrael is known from the verse "To his dwelling place you shall seek." They accordingly differentiate between the temple era and the era following its destruction. Thus, "To his dwelling place" teaches a prohibition during the former era, from Zion during the latter. However, even in the post-temple era, "To his dwelling place" remains a fundamental injunction, for from Zion merely includes the post-temple era in the prohibition as well. Let me just finish. So Rashi is therefore perfectly justified in citing "To his dwelling place" as the source of the prohibition. They maintain that Rabbi Chanina did not perform actual intercalation outside of Eretz Yisrael, but only made the preliminary calculations necessary to its performance. This sort of calculation is not included in the prohibitory verse "To his dwelling place." The Gemara accordingly inquires as to why Rabbi Chanina was censored and concludes it must be that from Zion prohibits even preliminary calculation. Yeah.
So were they saying you can't do this because it would be like we went against God, or you can't do this because you are going against God?
Say that again, please.
They said if you do this, you continue to do this, is as if you were going against God, as if you're an idol worshiper. Is he actually going against God by doing that? Or is he going against them? Them being the
He's going against God because it says Ki mitzion tetzei Torah u'devar Hashem Yerushalayim. That's what they're saying. You're going against the command. You shouldn't do it.
But it came from Jerusalem.
What?
The command from Jerusalem.
No.
No, the quote is.
The quote is from Isaiah, but what the point is that we say Ki mitzion tetzei Torah or Ki mitzion tetzei Torah. Right? This biblical. There's a verse. So we're saying that when the Torah has to come out and the word from God, from the Torah, from Zion the Torah goes out and the word of Hashem from Yerushalayim. So because of that, we're saying that it's a biblical injunction that it should only be there. Okay, so that's what they're questioning. They're saying, but it's no longer there, and the answer is no. It's always from that area that has to come. Okay, let's just try to finish this up. The Gemara questions the action of those sent to chastise Rabbi Chanina. So Bishlam Mataher Vehem Tamim. It's understandable that Rabbi Chanina would rule something tahor, which would mean you could use it. They would rule it tameh, since they thereby were showing greater stringency than he, and the law is that the second authority to rule on a given issue is permitted to show greater stringency than the first. Ella hu metame, but what he says is tameh. And they want to go lenient. How could they have done that? By Tanya, it was Tanya Breita. If a sage ruled that something is tameh, his colleague may not rule it tahor. Asar, if they rule it forbidden, the colleague may not permit it. So then, how could these two have contradicted Rabbi Chanina's ruling by showing greater leniency. So the Gemara says, "Kesavre ki heichi delo nigararu batre." They held this was necessary in order to ensure that people would not be drawn to follow after him. They therefore contradicted his every ruling. So he explains. The reason we don't normally do this, if somebody says it's tameh, we don't say it's tahor. If they say it's asr, we don't say it's mutter, is because you do not want to detract from the honor of the first sage. Others, however, explain the point in this manner: once a qualified sage pronounces something tameh or forbidden, the item actually assumes that status, and another sage lacks the legal authority to change it. This also gets into, if you ask a shaila, if you ask a question to a rav, and the rav says it's forbidden, you can't start shopping around to say, well, some people will say it's permitted, without telling them. In other words, if I would call the second guy up, so I would have to say, Rabbi blank said that this is usher, but I'm calling you because you're of a higher court, whatever. So once they hear that, they normally will just say, well, you already asked the shaila, forget it. They're really not going to override it. Unless you say to the rabbi, the first rabbi, you say, I'm asking theoretically. I'm not, I'm keeping the option to call somebody else, but I don't get the right answer. The rabbi may say to you, oh, I'm not interested in answering that sort of a question. Call the other person and leave me alone. But it's, which probably would be the smartest thing. And then finally, the Chedush Gra explains that these righteous men would certainly not have ruled falsely for this reason. However, these were not open and shut cases, but with questions with valid arguments on each side. These messengers firmly believe in their lenient rulings and would have ruled so even if they had not wished to discredit Rabbi Chanina. The Gemara simply questions their right to do so on the basis of the Braita, which prohibits one scholar from ruling leniently after another has ruled stringently. To this, the Gemara answers that in their situation the prohibition did not apply, for if they were charged with ensuring that none follow Rabbi Chanina, they certainly could not be expected to be solicitous. It can be solicitous. How would you say? Solicitous, yes, of his honor. They shouldn't solicit his honor. Solicitous. There he goes. Yeah. So, and we'll stop there. But that is really what? It's in number 9. Solicitous, I think it is called. Okay. You shouldn't solicit his good stuff. I mean, I know that's what it means. But that's really what's going on here. That by the way, again, this becomes a very pertinent issue when people walk into shuls. Let's say you knew something was going on. The rabbi, and somebody asks a question to the rabbi. The rabbi rules one way. And because you're not even a rabbi, but you know that it's the wrong answer. You don't say, wait a second, I know that blank. You don't do that. You just don't do that. It's wrong. What you do is you go up to the rabbi when everything's said and done, and you say, Rabbi, I have a question, because when I asked this is what I was told. And so the rabbi may say, oh, I never knew that. And he'll correct himself. But it's wrong. It's 1,000% wrong, no matter who you are, to jump at the rabbi at that point in front of everybody. What are you doing? You're dismantling all this power when he could have just made a mistake. I mean, everybody makes mistakes in the world, and it's not your place to do it. Which is why, using Rabbi Schechter again, they asked him a question, and when he goes into shuls, because many times he's invited as a speaker, and he says, "What if you see the rabbi doing something incorrect?" He said, I'm not the Rav. I'm not the Rav. I'll talk to him later, but I'm not going to embarrass him publicly. If I say it, he's not going to argue with me.
It's like a husband and wife should not have a discussion in front of their children of
correct
who's right and who's
correct.
wrong.
Correct. And a child should never say to their to either one or to anybody else, "My father's right." That's also against kibbud av v'ein. You can't do that. Okay, we'll stop here.